This year, voters in 5 states can legalize marijuana. That's not on the ballot in Tennessee, where more farmers than ever are growing a close cousin of that plant.
10 News reporter Jim Matheny shows us the state is fertile ground for industrial hemp.
This is not what you think it is. We're not hiding anything, so obviously it's not weed.
Ryan Rush of Maryville spent the last 3 years as part of a pilot program with approval from the state to grow industrial hemp in his backyard. He says most people now understand it's not marijuana, so he spends more time having alphabetical conversations.
Now what I'm more explaining to people is the difference between CBD and THC.
THC causes the high in marijuana, and there is just a tiny fraction of it in hemp. But it's loaded with CBD, something that does not get you high and is the latest trend with the wellness crowd.
Oils, tinctures, capsules, vape products, salves, lotions, a lot of nutritional value and medicinal value.
And the State Department of Agriculture wants Tennessee to be a national leader when it comes to industrial hemp. And in fact, the number of growers in Tennessee has nearly tripled in the last year alone, from 79 to 226.
Anyone and everybody can get a license, $250, $2 per acre.
The reason the state is licensing hemp farmers is to track what works, what doesn't, and come up with the best way to produce an agricultural product that right now does not have a lot of surefire research.
We're basically the guinea pigs for it. You know, you've got some really awesome farmers out there turning over a lot of money where their tobacco farms were dead 5 years ago.
While right now growers are focusing on CBD because it makes money, the state hopes to find long-term ways for farmers to make a profit using hemp for everything from clothes to car door panels. And Rush says he's not worried about competition or an overgrown market.
I love it. More competition, but more attention, more customer base. I think it's great.
In Maryville, Jim Matheny, WBIR 10 News.
Again, the state issues those hemp licenses year to year. Applications for next year start in November.
All right, let's